I was going to come on here this evening and talk about Deion Sanders. He did an interview recently where he explained why we have seen a decline in African American players in Major League Baseball. Now, I like Deion Sanders a lot. He was one of my favorite athletes when I was growing up. I miss his segments on the NFL Network every Sunday, but for him to insinuate that black people have been priced out of the game of baseball, it was disappointing, to be honest with you, and it's just ridiculous. We might get into that tomorrow morning. As I was researching that story, I came across something on my news feed that caught my attention. Google has tailored my news feed to populate itself with propaganda. I appreciate the algorithm because it makes my job a hell of a lot easier. But the headline that caught my attention from USA Today: WNBA and NWSL TV deal renewals may be a billion-dollar boon for women's sports. I had to double check my eyesight when I read that headline. I sent a screenshot of it to one of my friends to make sure I was reading it correctly. Billion with a B? Did I just see the word billion in the same sentence as the WNBA and NWSL? Billion-dollar boon? Really? I'm still waiting for the WNBA to make their first $1 million. And you want to talk about TV rights deals worth $1 billion? I had to click on that article when I saw it to make sure it wasn't coming from a satire site like The Onion. Sure enough, it is a legit article from USA Today, which is nice in one sense. At least I can justify my monthly subscription to that garbage site now. The article was written by Tom Shad. In the limited amount of research I did on him, I couldn't find any other examples of him being overly woke, so I'm not going to sit here and call him a woke dumbass. Maybe he was forced to write this garbage by one of his editors, I don't know. Because at no point throughout the article did he convince me that this was going to become a reality. Rights deals for both the WNBA and NWSL, they're set for renewal over the next couple of years. NWSL, they are up for renewal next year. WNBA, their deal with ESPN expires in 2025. Right now, the WNBA deal is worth about $25 million a season. NWSL, they have a deal with CBS and Twitch. It's worth a combined $5.5 million. Now, I'm no Pythagoras. I'm not an expert in math, so I contacted our resident math expert, Mina Kimes, to help with this tough equation. KC, both deals combined are worth $30.5 million. And by the way, the NFL preseason starts next month. Did you know during the preseason, Jameis Winston is the best? That is enough, Mina. That's enough. That's enough. Thanks for the help. Get back to the dungeon. I'll call you when I need you again. I am struggling to figure out how we are going from $30.5 million combined to $1 billion in the span of 1 to 3 years. Now, to be fair, USA Today also included the women's college basketball tournament in this equation, which they kept erroneously referring to as March Madness. But even with that included, how the fuck are we talking about women's sports being worth $1 billion in the television industry? There has never been more access to entertainment than what we have today. Think about all the shows on Netflix, Paramount, cable TV, other streaming services. Think of all the shows created in the past. Thousands upon thousands of TV series. Very few are worth $1 billion. Frasier, for example, one of the most popular shows on network television in the 90s and early 2000s. The show's value didn't surpass the $1 billion mark until 2005, a year after it went off the air. NBC, they received over $800 million in rights fees to air the show in syndication. Friends, another historic show from the 90s, one of the most popular shows of all time. Over 30 years, Friends has grossed about $4.8 billion for Warner Brothers and NBC. These are shows with a large audience. These are shows that crossed into the mainstream. Again, I am struggling to draw the parallel as to how the WNBA, the NWSL, are going to command this kind of money from TV networks. Throughout the article on USA Today, they kept talking about potential. There is untapped value in the market of women's sports. If you build it, they will come. They interviewed Carol Stiff, who managed women's sports programming for ESPN before she retired last summer. Carol Stiff fell back on the same tired excuse we always hear when women's sports don't draw an audience. Networks air games against stiff competition. They are forcing women to compete against the NHL and NBA. I'm going to say the same thing I said about Major League Baseball when we talked about this the other day, earlier this week. The media keeps trying to convince us that women's basketball, the NWSL, they try to convince us that it's captivating television. If that bullshit were actually true, you shouldn't be worried about competing with the NBA or the NHL. If your product is superior, you should want to compete with the NBA, but you already know the problem. Your product sucks, which is why you want it aired against no competition. What are television networks supposed to do? Should we lump the WNBA and NWSL season into the months of June and July so they don't have any major competition to compete with? Both leagues already play a large portion of their season during the summer, and they still don't draw an audience. While researching this story, I saw an article from the Big Ten boasting about their record-breaking conference tournament for the women this year. Ooh, we shattered records. These ladies put on a show. Hundreds of people were entertained. What was this record-shattering number? The tournament averaged 120,000 viewers. While reading this article on USA Today, I got to wondering, it's not fair for me to compare the WNBA or the NWSL to the NFL and the NBA. Both of those leagues, they command billions of dollars in TV rights. Instead, what we're going to do, we're going to compare them to the NHL and Major League Soccer. The NHL gets $625 million per season from Turner and ESPN combined. What do those networks get in return for their investment? The NHL averages 460,000 viewers during the regular season. They average 768,000 through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. Stanley Cup Finals, 4.6 million on ABC. Now, compare that to the WNBA, which averages around 310,000 for the regular season. WNBA Finals last year, 548,000 on ABC and ESPN. Now, I would give you television ratings for the NWSL, but strangely enough, I can't find them. I looked, and looked. The only thing I could find was where one game on CBS hit 450,000 viewers. Ooh, what a huge audience. That would be a great audience for Bomani Jones, but for a broadcast network like CBS, 450,000 viewers is a death sentence. Major League Soccer, they averaged 285,000 per game last season. Their deal with ESPN, it was worth about 65 million per season. Now they just signed a deal with Apple worth 250 million a season, which I would imagine Apple will eventually regret. I'm going back to the original question. Where is this $1 billion going to come from? As woke as they are, I can't see ESPN being willing to pay $100 million for the WNBA. They just bumped the WNBA for fucking Wimbledon last weekend. They don't value the deal they have in place now. Why would they be willing to pay 4 times that amount? According to Dresser Media, the women's college basketball tournament could command $100 million by 2025. And to be honest with you, if their ratings stay where they're at now, I could see that as a real possibility. The Final Four this year averaged 3.5 million. The championship almost hit 5 million viewers. In 26 years, how many WNBA games have eclipsed 1 million viewers? 2 or 3? The NWSL championship last year on CBS, 525,000 viewers. That is on free television. No subscription required, no internet needed. All you need is a TV, an antenna, and some aluminum foil. I bring all this to your attention because it's another example of the mainstream media trying to convince you that women's sports are entertaining, when the truth is, they're just not. Well, KC, that's because of toxic masculinity. We must reshape the mentality of men. We must convince men to support their women. Why don't you convince women to support women first? According to a survey by Statista, 4% of females in America give a fuck about the NWSL. 4%. Less than 3% of Americans overall identify as fans of the NWSL. There are more Americans identifying as a fucking shovel than fans of the NWSL. As far as the WNBA is concerned, 6% of men, less than 4% of women are fans of the worst known basketball around. And yes, I know known starts with the letter K. Of the people surveyed, most said they watch the WNBA for comedic relief. They tune in for the laughs. They tune in to see how badly Sue Bird can miss wide open layups. They're mesmerized by how many times Natasha Cloud can airball a free throw. They tell me WNBA games are better than stand-up comedians and a hell of a lot cheaper to attend. You are absolutely delusional if you think women's college basketball, the WNBA, and the NWSL will come close to drawing $1 billion combined in TV rights deals. Like I said, if the WNBA and NWSL were entertaining, the media wouldn't need to convince you. They wouldn't have to work hard writing up articles of fiction talking about how exciting these women are. Ooh. Nothing says excitement like missed layups and airball free throws. NWSL, they're actually luckier than the WNBA. They're going to be negotiating their deal in the midst of this female empowerment movement, where organizations, television networks, they're being bullied and guilted into giving women's sports a chance that they haven't earned. The WNBA, they got to wait until 2025. By then, God willing, this woke bullshit will be over. The sympathy will be gone. Hopefully by then, businesses, television networks, they'll go back to caring about making money, drawing an audience instead of maintaining a high ESG score. If that's the case, the WNBA is screwed. They'll be lucky to remain on television, period, much less try to command hundreds of millions of dollars to broadcast live footage from the dump. But let me know what you think. Do you think women's sports can command $1 billion from television networks? Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.